We're recording! Yay! Welcome to AI prototyping. I'm going to do an actual presentation today. I sure am. But before I do that, I thought I would say hello and welcome. We have some new friends. Some of you joined last week. Some of you have been here before and haven't been here in a minute. So welcome, welcome. I would go around and let you talk, but I'm not going to. So instead, I'm going to let us do that at the end, because I will kind of rush through this and then we'll have time, but I don't want to reverse it so that y'all miss out on some juicy bits I have. So I wanted to start out with this, which is to say, this AI prototyping club actually grew out of a group of us from the AI Salon who did publish a book together. And then I thought, well, that's really fun. I want to do more applied real or prototyped things with folks. And so that's what came to this group. But we haven't done anything around publishing since the official group was established. And then I think it was 2 weeks ago when it was the, was it a meet and greet or did somebody have a presentation? Either way, it was the Tuesday night AI Salon. And there was a question put out of, you know, something people want to do. And I was cruising.
Wasn't it when Adnan and Brian went
yes.
about their book that you published?
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. Yes, that's right. That's right. So I noticed in the chat that lots of people said one of the things they would like to do is to publish. So we were wrapping on what we were busy over at this group anyway, which was kind of, we were doing a bit of a sprint, but it was loose. So I thought, this is great. This will be the next 4-week sprint. We'll focus on publishing. Since folks are interested, and I'm going to record this, and also the decks I have each week, I'll put into the group so you can pull them later. You can grab screenshots if you want to, but also just know I'm going to put that in there, or put a link, because I don't think I can put a PDF. Anyway, you'll get it, is what I'm saying. So why me? Why publishing? I thought I would just say a couple words because not everybody knows my whole story here. So I work as a writer, and I have lots of publishing, writing stuff going on. So here's the arc of where I am in that space. My first book ever I published was Scholastic in 2005. And since then I have numerous textbooks essentially published with textbook publishers, including like Springer Nature. If you know Nature magazine, they're a publisher of science publishing. And I have a press at Arizona State University related to my day job as a futurist that we publish peer-reviewed reports out of. And then Kyle is right. What spurred this was Adnan and Brian's book that was at the last AI Salon, which they have a great story if you missed it. They met and really quickly spun up the book. And I also am the publisher for a group Kyle and I are both in called Content Evolution. And I run the Content Evolution media end of it. And so lots going on in my world in publishing, even though that is not my day job. It is really just an interest and a passion. And then when all this Gen AI stuff started, I was meeting all kinds of folks who were doing cool stuff and had stuff to publish. So I stood up another press called Turkey Hill Press, which is what we published the AI anthology under with Kyle. And some of the other people like Daisy Thomas, I've published, and there will be more. And Kyle's working on another project that he has to have done by, what is it, May 8th has to be available at least? Yes. So all of those things, the Turkey Hill is self-publishing through Amazon. So I thought, well, this is something I know how to do, and it could be helpful to others to know how to publish their own materials. And so that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to walk through. So I am going to share screen. Hold on. What's it called? Oh, that's why. Hold on a second. Okay. Share screen. Here we go. I'm just going to walk through this because it helps me think. And I can just talk about things. And then if you guys want to just yell out if I don't see you, just yell out, ask me questions. So everything I just mentioned, this is going to be a 4-week sprint that gives you a kind of high level how to do this if you are interested and have thought about it but not really sure how to proceed. So here's the first thing I want to talk about, which is a lot of folks have ideas that stay in idea form because they don't know how to get them from their headspace to their computer. And that's because a lot of people, even if you feel like you're skilled at writing, it can be really tough to just get yourself to sit down and write. So most of my books are written by recording. So if you do the walk and talk, drive and talk, chat with AI, that is the first thing I would recommend. If you have a bunch of disparate ideas, thoughts, start recording yourself. So get an app on whatever device you use that you're most comfortable hanging out with the most, your phone, a tablet, a laptop, doesn't matter. Use a consistent recording tool. I just use the free one that's on my Android. Literally, I just hit it and record. And then I send it to myself, which I'll talk about next. But the importance of doing this is you don't have to feel like you have to go in order. The problem with trying to sit your butt down in front of a computer is your brain will go, well, that's like out of order and out of sequence. And it's really hard for you to type and organize like that because you'll keep fighting it and you'll keep going, well, I can't forget, I got to put this in front of it. But if you're just recording this one story that has to do, or this one lesson, if you're doing a workbook and it's just a one exercise, you don't have to focus on the rest of the stuff. Let it go. Just sit there and record everything you can think of that has to go to do with that one thing. And that's it. Doing that will get you to create a published book faster than sitting down at any computer because you will judge yourself and you will edit yourself as you're typing. But if you go, I'm going to talk about that now. You can clean that stuff up. So, number one, record yourself. Then, once you have these recordings, wherever you have them, send them off to transcription. Use whatever you want. I just put the most used ones in here that I know of. I would keep an eye on it, though. A lot of the totally free AI stuff can be a little rough, especially if you're in any kind of wind or anything like that. So if you want to do this, test the different, this is part of it. test the different transcription models and see which ones do the best job, and then just stick with it. So I have to do lots of interviews, so I have to do lots of transcriptions. So I use a paid for service. I use Temi more than anything else, and it's just because it works best for what I'm doing. I don't have a monthly subscription, and Temi seems expensive, but actually don't need it that often. So I discovered that I wasn't using always the $12 a month type value at other places. So you just have to see if you're only going to use this just for this project, maybe sign up for a month and then cancel it. But have a transcription service that you feel comfortable using, because then you can just get in this rhythm where you record, send it off, record, send it off, and they'll all just land in your dashboard, and you can grab them later, even if you don't have time to get them right then and there. All right, up next. So once you have recorded yourself and then you've transcribed, you have to figure out, what are you going to do with all this stuff? Now, you should not be organizing the actual copy of your transcriptions or editing yet. So we are recording, we're transcribing, and now we're building a project documentation station, if you will. So it's really important right now, if you feel like, I do want to at some point publish something, to get really organized about it immediately. Not the content, but just the dump of the data. So what I put on here is choose your place. So if you're a Google person, then make a Google folder with Google folders inside of that you can start dumping, one that says recordings, one that says transcriptions. Whatever service you like using, whatever software is your jam. And if you don't have this, now's the time to figure it out, because this is how to go fast in putting out a book. So if you build folders, one that is the working name of whatever your manuscript's going to be called, or your workbook's going to be called, or whatever it is you're going to be publishing. Maybe it's a collection of zines. Give it that title name, and then inside immediately, even before you start recording, make a folder called recordings and make a folder called transcriptions immediately, so that it's ready to receive when you get fired up because you go out on some walk or drive, and all of a sudden you're like, it's hit. Now you have all this stuff. You need to have a place to deposit it. And when you're excited about recording and transcribing and you're on a roll, you don't want to slow down at that point, then to have to do this boring part. So do this boring part right now this week. Build these folders. And then you have to step into some system of this taxonomy. So what that has to do with is getting yourself in a rhythm of a system. Example, your recordings should always be the same. You decide what your same is, but as an example, date first, then one keyword. So it might be 4/14/25 workshop publishing, if I were doing that right now. So, but get yourself in, put a date, put a keyword, something that is your memory. And then that way, when you go to look at your recordings, look at your transcriptions, because they will come back to you in the same label you sent them off in. Now you go to your library in those two folders of recordings and transcriptions. They have the same taxonomy that makes sense in your mind by date and name, or name and date. Whatever works for you, decide that now. Declare it for yourself, write it down, and get in the habit so that as soon as you're done on your phone recording too, you can just do that. Make sure it says the date and the keyword, and you just have this rhythm going. Trust me when I say the hardest thing about getting the final book really going together is when you have to organize all your crap. So if you're organized up front, it really allows you to move much faster when you get to that editing stage down the road. Okay, next thing, data hygiene. So data hygiene means going in and cleaning up your transcriptions. So if you're on a roll and you do a bunch of recordings and a bunch of transcriptions, and then you kind of slow down and, you know, you're thinking, oh, and you kind of slow down in your, you know, fever of recording things, but you still want to stay engaged in the project, that's the time to just go in. This is like, you can do this kind of stuff, you know, while watching a movie or something, where you just go in and you use find replace. If you said something you didn't like, you do cleanup, just scroll through, look, have it find replace, get rid of all your ums, your ahs, your ohs, whatever your pause is that you put in. Clean that stuff up. Go through and make sure the spellings are correct, things like that. Don't edit, however. Do not begin to edit at this stage. Just clean up the transcriptions and then move along and then move along. Okay, the last thing I put in this project documentation is notes system. So it's a really good idea at this beginning stage right now to have an understanding, first of all, of how do you work and communicate with yourself? What do I mean by that is, are you a sticky note person? Do you put it all on your calendar? Do you send yourself reminders? What is the way you talk to yourself? And, you know, and it might be a bunch of things since we're all probably neurospicy. But what that refers to is you may need another folder or another document inside your manuscript folder, inside this system, because you might also already start to have connection points that you want to recall. So you could record a chapter, and then as you begin to record something else, your mind might say, oh my God, stop right here. You have to remember to put this and this together. Give yourself a space for that. Or you might be at lunch and write something down on a napkin, and you want to just like upload that note. Maybe you want to go into a Google Doc and just recall that note from lunch. You need a notes space when you're working on a project like this. So don't try to force yourself to put all your thoughts back into the transcriptions of your recordings. It's too much for your brain to try to work with all that. So have another file that's just kind of your dump of thoughts, and then you'll go back to it once the time comes. But now is not the time. Now is the time just to like make things happen and, you know, come through it. So I'm not going to keep doing my presentation because I want to talk here, but this is what I want everyone to work on. And again, I'm going to give you a link to this too. So if you are just listening right now and you need to recall, here's the thing to try to work on. So as soon as I'm done here, I want to start to hear from folks. Do you have a project you're in the middle of? Do you have something you're interested in working on? And if you don't, that's totally fine too. But if you do, I'd love to see this sprint used as a way to get something really moving for each of you over the next 4 weeks. Like actually use this as time to create something. So if you are already working on a project, I want to really encourage you over this next week to finish just one thing, meaning finish means record it, transcribe it. Really get it off your mind. Get a single chapter out or a single section or a single activity that is rolling around in your mind, and just, even if it takes several different recordings and transcriptions to get it out, and then you can data hygiene it. But practice, set all this up, because now that we're talking about it, it's really highly likely that your brain's going to go, ooh, I do feel I want to do that. So get your recording tools set up. Do a couple practice runs. Make sure it sounds right and it works right. Don't wait until you're really moved by the spirit of the muse telling you some great thing and then your recording is crappy. So just do a test run, just doing like a minute long, and send it off and make sure it works. And, you know, practice with a transcription service. A bunch of them are free in the beginning, trials and things. Just spend the next week doing everything in practice, because that way you're ready and you're not frustrated when you're trying to do it for real. And then start to build your documentation system. So wherever you're at, Google or Asana or whatever the heck you use, get all your folders built, get your documents labeled, ready to receive. And that way, that's the yucky part. That's the work part of it. The setup where you have to collect to receive all of your data, that is less fun. But if you get all that set up, and really all of these things on your homework list, that's like, you know, that's less than an hour. You could get all that done. So that's my ask of you for this. I think the last thing just says, thank you. Yeah, it does. So that was my way of remembering everything I wanted to say out loud. Now I want questions about any of that first. Questions at all? Thoughts, questions, ideas? Anybody done anything like this?
I have your advice about creating folders and things. My strategy has been save files indiscriminately to the desktop and never be able to find them again. So I think it's a radical approach, but I like it.
I know.
I think there's some sanity in it that I haven't had in my life. So
it's very non-neurospicy of me.
It really is. It really doesn't help.
I know. But the other reason, I'll tell you the other reason I suggest really having this documentation and all this stuff is because the other thing it lets you do very easily and very conveniently, if you set that up, is it lets you co-create. So if you're not feeling the vibe that you're ready to do something necessarily by yourself, if you have a really organized system like that, it's really easy for 2, 3, 4 people to opt in together and co-produce something. But if you don't set up a structure like that and you're collaborating, and I'm a big collaborator, most of my work is collaborative. And I know that if you don't set up a system like that, one person ends up taking the burden of organizing, and that's a lot to ask. So that's the other reason this is super useful, to just set up whatever it is, whatever your thing is, but have some sort of, and even if it sounds crazy, but if it makes sense to you, go with it. But don't use Kyle Shannon's method of sniffing around on your desktop of like, where's my shit at? All right. Well, if you have questions, jump in on the questions too. But now what I'd love to do is just pop around and hear projects that people are thinking about, or because each week I'm going to come back. I'm going to walk you guys all the way through. Like at the end of 4 weeks, you can go forth thyself and publish. Okay. You're moving to Notebook LM. Okay. Anyone else want to share? I know some of you have already shared with me, so I know some of you have projects. Chef Kelly, yes, please.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hi. Yes. You can't hear me though, right? Yes, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm not gonna publish a book or anything like that. Well, but I want this like organization that you have, because I tend to do that to myself. I'll be talking to the walls or to the steering wheel, and then I'll say something really great, and then I won't remember it. Or when I sit down to write it, I don't know. It's almost like the moment's passed, or I don't have the confidence to sound as have as much conviction as I did. So when you say set up your recording system,
Hmm.
how can I do that effectively so that when the spontaneity hits, whether I'm driving or cleaning the house or whatever it is, that I don't have to really stop too much and hook? I mean, I have some lavaliers, like
You don't need
what
to
do you
do that
suggest?
though. No,
Just put this on voice mode and that's it. Just boop.
yeah, I just do this. Do, 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 do. And I don't even have a fancy recording app. It's the one that came with the phone.
Okay.
And I just sit here like this. I walk.
Yeah.
There's an echo from somebody.
A lot of times I get inspired by, like, if I'm listening to talk radio or watching TV, and the whatever subject that comes up is when I start talking back to it, and then it's like I missed the whole capture. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why. And I mean, oh shoot, why do we have an echo? That's so weird.
Kelly, I
Was it
think
me?
it's yours. Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
If you go to your settings and turn on noise cancellation under audio, that should help.
Kyle knows all the things. Well, this is why. So the other thing I didn't mention about my world of writing is also I've been doing weird and wonderful writing since I was in college. I used to do stuff for the Village Voice and like the New Times type things, local rag things. And then for several years, I did ghostwriting for many years. There's lots of books out there that I wrote. And the way I would do that is I would get the client to record because they had no business putting their fingers on a keyboard because nonsense came out. But if you would talk a story to me, I could translate that into the writing. And so for me, that's how this really began years ago, is getting clients to get me something to work with because they couldn't write. That's why they needed a ghostwriter, And so, but they could tell stories, they could talk and tell me all these meandering things, and then I could organize them together. So I record myself constantly. There is so many, and some of them are like 40 seconds. Some of them are like, 40 minutes. And then I'm sending them off. But I will say the last, many books I have written are me just talking. And in fact, here's the other thing to say about that too, is I have a book that I always forget the name of because it's not titled what I wanted it to be called. So my brain says the title I want, but I lost that battle. It's called Thrive, the Creative's Guidebook to Professional Tenacity, something like that. Anyway, that book, how that entire book came to be was I was teaching a course at Arizona State University, and I knew I'd taught the course for like 12 semesters, and I knew I was done and it was going to be my last semester. So I recorded every single lecture, every single one. And then I just sent it off to transcription, and then I did the data hygiene. And it was hundreds and hundreds of hours, but it was a full textbook, so it was fine. Did the data hygiene, and then I had a book on my hands because it was my lectures that I just turned into assignments. And it works really well as long as you have somewhere to put them. So if you just record and record and record, and even if you record and record and you send them and you just have a bunch of stuff on your whatever transcription service you use on that dashboard, it's also just going to sit in those two places. It's going to sit as recordings or sit as transcriptions. So you have to push yourself to create some kind of system that you acknowledge they exist in, so that, as we go in this and you see, well, then what do you do with them? You'll be glad you have that organization. And it's like, whatever it is, I know it's hard to organize, but if you want to ever put any kind of workbook publication together, you got to have some organization, or your publisher will be displeased. But the other thing I want to say too, and then I want to hear from other people about publishers. The reason I am so interested in showing so many people how to self-publish and why I have a press that I will publish for people, all of that kind of stuff, but I want you guys to try by yourself too, is it, you know, it's not that difficult to actually be able to publish. And I have ongoing contracts with publishers. So I'm always in the middle of a book or two that I have to turn in. And here's the thing I want to say that's really important that I know people kind of vaguely know, but I'm not sure it really hits home, which is this. Unless you're Stephen King, your book is not going to pay your mortgage. Okay. Even people I know, actually one of my partner in crime at the Threatcasting Lab, he's written, I think he's at book 19. All of those books together don't pay his mortgage. Okay, so that's the most important thing up front is you don't write a book to get rich. Unless you're a damn good writer, either in fiction or nonfiction, or you're famous. In nonfiction, it would be that you're famous first and you wrote something that people want to follow. Or in fiction, nonfiction, yeah, I said that right. What it actually is, if you ever do want to publish something, is it's a calling card. It's something you can show up and wave around, which is why I try to get everybody to publish. Because is anyone other than, you know, your immediate family and friends going to read it? Nope. Nope. Definitely not. But that's not the point. What it does say is there is this sort of cachet, like, oh, you are an author, because people respect that you put the time and the work and the effort into it. There's value in that. And so, you know, as we're doing this together, I will just keep encouraging everyone. It is really good to have something published under your name, be it a book, a workbook, you know, whatever kind of publication. And I'll say this to you. Don't hold out for a publisher that you know the name of, because they will not do anything for you. So I've published with publishers of name. They do nothing. So meaning, when I turn in a manuscript, they say to me, how do you feel about this? Are you going to hire an editor? If I want my books edited, I pay for that. Authors pay for that. So unless, again, if you're Stephen King, if you're people of note, I'm sure it's a whole different system. But for the rest of us down here, they do not edit for you. You have to pay people. They do not do any of your design work. So if you have graphs, charts, anything in the inside, you have to do that yourself. Once your book is published by them, they do nothing to promote it. You have to promote your own book. If you go out on book tours, you have to pre-buy the books and make your money back on the tours. That's the way all of this works. So I can see some of you going, that's kind of disgusting, but it is how it works. So you might as well get in on it and get nothing too, right? So that's my point about this, is like all these people who are not big names, who you just see books and they're regular folk, no one's helping them, no one's supporting them. It's a personal endeavor. They have to put the time, money, effort into it themselves and then try to get it back out. That's how this works. So I always want to say that up front, because it's don't wait for someone magically to like give you some book contract, because I have book contracts, and you know what comes with it? Absolutely nothing. I mean, I do get paid to write the books, but the whole payment to write them either comes up front, and it's like a mortgage. That's it. And if I choose that, then I get no royalties, or I get nothing up front and then I get royalties. So it's one or the other. You can't double dip. So if I say, yeah, please pay me $2,500 up front, then I will never get royalties for the life of the book. So that's how those things work. And so I just think it's important to share that. It's like, you know, the good thing of it though, if I walk into a room and I have all these books under my name, you bet it makes people think differently of me. Am I any different than any other professional who's in there who just hasn't published yet? Nope. But people sure think so. So I want to say there's a lot of value in waving a book around. The other thing I want to say, go, Kyle.
Cindy, I can promise you you're different than every other professional in the room, but that's a whole separate conversation.
I think that's probably yeah, in a lot of ways, but yeah. And the other thing I wanted to share so that you have like what makes a book, especially in self-publishing in the KDP world. So KDP is Amazon's publishing arm, which is only print. So it's what you go through to do hardcover, paperbacks. The ebooks are there too, but ebooks are a whole separate thing. And I'll address that a little bit down the road as we cook along in this sprint. But here's the thing about a paperback book like Adnan and Brian created. You only have to hit 76 pages. That's it. If you hit 76 pages, and that can include graphs, charts, pictures, you can't use really big font and you can't have a bunch of empty pages. It really has to be 76 pages at a minimum of content. That gives you an automatic free ISBN number. Now, if you had a book that was 56 pages, you can still publish it. You just have to pay for the ISBN, which you don't want to do that. So hit 76 pages, that's all you have to do. And so if you're doing, say, a workbook, you might have like 2 pages of writing and then 2 pages of, boxes and lines and things you fill out. So think about it. Once you hit that marker of that 76 page mark, you're a book. And, I'll walk through all the pieces and all the elements you have to put together down the road. But I just thought those things, publishers don't give you anything anyway. You might as well do it by yourself. And you only need to hit 76 to get an ISBN to be a book. If you have those things in the top of your head, it might be more encouraging to give this a shot. So with that, anyone else have a book idea, something in mind? Anyone? Kelly?
I'll go.
Okay, go. Yay.
Well, first, thank you so much. This is a master class to really, really get the neurons moving. I took Kyle's advice, and I think he had it on one of his videos. Sometimes I fall asleep at night when I'm listening to Kyle because it's late here.
Yes.
And I took one of my daughter's drawings and I put it into ChatGPT and I asked it to create a never before seen mammal from the drawing because I just didn't know what it was. And so it came up with a whole new species. And then it came up with a whole ecosystem of where it lives and its own form of transportation. And it came up with a whole bunch of adventures to go on. So I'm excited to move along with that process. But the things that you're going over really helps because even though ChatGPT suggested the environment and characters. Oh, excuse me, Kevin's barking.
Oh.
Even though ChatGPT suggests that, the idea that you just gave me was to take that concept down to the river and experience the adventure that my characters would be on, and that would help to embellish what's going on with that. So
yes. And describe what you see around you. Actually go on the field trip. Describe the rocks. Describe the sound of the water. Describe the leaves. I mean, that's so great. And I'm so glad you brought that up too, actually, because I just said the 76 page. That's for like, a business book, workbook. But also, I will be walking through children's books obviously are not 76 pages. I think they're only 12 pages, and that includes like the cover page. So I love that. That's such a great addition just to think about if you're doing, I can imagine if you're writing a fiction piece too, just walking around a museum or a store or something and just sort of like seeing things that you want to describe in the book and just actually standing in front of them and using that inspiration immediately. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. It's going to be so fun. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Let me throw out another idea, Jeannie, and for other people. One of the things that is sometimes intimidating is the equivalent of what they call white page syndrome, where you just stare at a page, you don't know what to write. You can have similar sort of overwhelm with the recording. So a piece of pre-work you could do is go into ChatGPT and, you know, give it the concept and then have it generate 12 or 15 questions that you could answer to flesh out the story. And then when you put it in voice mode, say, ask me those questions one at a time, and don't ask the next question until I say the word banana or something like that. So let ChatGPT be your prompter, be your interviewer, but you could figure out the questions ahead of time and then go on your walk. And then that way it'll be prompting you for different things to look for.
Oh, that's so good, Kyle. Totally.
So much fun. Thank you. What a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because it's true. I mean, I am, you know, jumping to the, if, you know, you have an idea, but it can still be a challenge to figure out how to organize. I mean, for me, I laugh because I'm always writing multiple books at once, which is ridiculous. Like, I get it. It's so ridiculous, but it's because they're different content. So sometimes I can't stand like working on this one anymore. So like I have to move over here and I have to move over here. And, you know, that's the thing is like, I have assignments, right? Like I got to get the writing done. So I really appreciate that, Kyle, because like, let me back it up and just say, I'm not short of ideas and I'm just a mess of like vomiting. I call it vomiting on the page, because if you could see I'm actually, even though I'm neurospicy too, I'm ridiculously organized. And I think that's part of my spiciness is I'm like super hyper organized about stuff. And it's because I want to be able to find it to play with it again. But the number of, oh my God, children's books, workbooks, I mean, that exist that I just don't even have enough time, that are literally even written, by the way, too. But I don't even have time. I need like a staff to like take this stuff from me, because then it becomes the design and the layout. So, and that's something I'll chat about down the road too, which, you know, can be templated and doesn't have to be hard either. But I don't know. I think the first thing, it's true. Like if you have an idea just sort of noodling, ask chat or whatever you use, whatever AI you use, to help you start to get that noodle out of your head, you know, and start to ask you questions. I think that's a super great suggestion. If you're kind of like, I don't even know where to begin. I just have this idea about, you know, a children's book in watermelon, you know, using, and I don't know if you all use the voice chat while you are out in the world, but if you don't, I mean, get up on that, because it's game changing. Kevin, please. Yes.
Okay, I don't know how this will work because I'm walking around the park, but I just wanted to add, I've been a manager in my other life, and I've been trying to use Copilot as kind of delegate, like as a staff, delegate some stuff out. But the book idea that I've been playing around with for way too long revolves around treatment, behavioral health, addiction treatment. I have like 40 years experience and a lifetime experience of it. And this is something I would like to put into a package book that I have smatterings of material similar to like Kyle was talking about. And then I have organized material. So that's kind of something I'd like to try to promote in as short a time as possible.
Yeah. You just reminded me, I am going to, some of you know this story. Let me go, here we go. This story of I sort of accidentally wrote a book, a different book that I didn't sort of mean to. A friend of mine who is in education administration said something very similar, Kevin, to me, where she had her whole career, she'd been in education and in administration. She taught so many workshops and leadership sessions and my God, on. And she just had materials and content for days, her whole career. And so we started to just have walk and talk sessions where she was trying to figure out what her next phase was going to be. And I was encouraging her, you know, put it all in a book, workbook, something. And so our conversations, I was kind of all over the place, just going like, oh, we could do this and you could do this and you could do that and you could do that, because she wasn't sure what she wanted to do with her content yet. And so I was building her a Google Doc of ideas, and I was using AI to find things and experience I had and other people I had worked with. So then I just turned that into a book, which here, I'm going to drop that in the chat. Hopefully you guys can get that. Oops. Some of you might have issues, but let's see if this works. Well, it says it won't fix all your issues. Well, I can't fix all your issues either, but you know, that's
darn.
Okay, let me see. Huh, it's acting weird. I'll get it in there. Hold on a second. Oh my God, now I'm like stuck with the I can't get out of the view. I can't see you guys anymore. Now I just have this. Share with these people. Let it go. Oh my God.
I see you.
I know I can see you guys, but behind the little screen where you go to share in the chat is like stuck, frozen.
Yes, I got a weird red dot in the upper left of my screen when you began to have problems.
I'm sorry. And now I'm stuck. I can't get out. That's so weird. Oh, maybe if I, anyway, Liz, please begin talking while Cindy solves her problems.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. And it feels like such, how do I say this? A natural approach. It feels so in keeping with this AI mindset way of approaching problems. And I appreciate it a lot. And I'm just struck by how the way you're talking about it, how creating omni-channel or multi-channel content becomes much more possible, much more quickly, and much less expensively. So for example, I was using Manus to create a deep research website on a topic that I wanted to make a short film about, something from history that I wanted to mine for stories. And it gave me way more than I thought I would ever have. The oral tradition and all kinds of like stories from characters that this had truly happened to, because it's something from history. And I started thinking this not only would be good for mining for short films, but there are so many stories in this, because the Manus site, it tells you who all the main characters in the historical events are. And anyway, I was just struck that this is just such an interesting approach that a single person can create a website multiple short films and a book on a single idea in a really, in sort of an elegant way.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, to your point too, I think that that goes to this whole, like, it's like publishing, but it really, what we're going to be doing is a way to organize from an idea to an output, you know. And I'm just going to walk people through how to use KDP, but that's just because I realize a lot of folks, it's kind of like stupid, the whole system, and it's overwhelming unnecessarily, but it is just one thing. And so it's like, you know, could you just publish as a PDF, but then your ultimate goal is to turn that into a screenplay, to turn that into a film, but you're never going to get there without organizing it all in this way. So yeah, I mean, appreciate that. I also want to share Kevin real quick, because I know you're walking around, and I put that in chat. But if you go to the AI Salon after this, I will go put that book in there too. It's called Content Remix, and it's just a bunch of different chapters about what are things you could do with your content. If you didn't want to make necessarily a book, it's just a bunch of repurposing of content. And I think that's the point of this too, is to think about, well, what materials and content already exist, especially now that so many people have been messing around for 2 years in AI, that you could capture up to put together in something. And, you know, the thing to think about is, why would you do this? What is your use? So is it Jeannie's case that this would be awesome to make a children's book series? Would it be good to make workbooks, business books? You know, what's your use?
I will check it out. Thank you.
You bet. Anyone else want to share anything they're working on, or questions, or? Okay. Well, I will.
I'll share one final tidbit if no one's got anything. One of the things I experienced, I wrote a one-man show once, and I wrote down all these ideas of scenes that I could put in the one-man show. And it was like a page and a half of just single line descriptions. And I kind of knew what the stories were. And when I started writing the show, I got about a third of the way through those ideas, and I had a complete show. So even if you think you don't have much, you probably have more than you think you do. So just get started talking about it, because as Cindy said, in just getting the story out of your head, it'll trigger other things. And you may think, oh, I've got to finish, you know, completing all these different piece parts. You probably have more than you think you do. It's just something that I learned doing that. That was back in the olden timey days where we had to use our brains and paper.
Right.
It was awful.
Well, and the other thing right now is, if you get cooking with just recording some thoughts and notes as a way to say, you know, back to Liz's point of like, oh, then I want to maybe go into one of the models and do some research that then advances what I'm working on. It's like, even that alone, of having this whole talkie through of, okay, in order to create this outcome I'd like to create, let me think about all the people maybe I would want to talk through or whatever. But just doing this recording hack, it just moves the needle faster forward, because I just find that putting your hands down to, I mean, really, I mean, part of my profession is working as a writer, and I find it really difficult to sit in front of my computer to do the writing. I just really do. And I can jam on it when I have to like edit through my own stuff, but it also is gross. Like, I don't love it. I have to set up all these rewards and breaks for myself, because it's really not fun. I mean, that's the reason, you know, the romanticness of writing is like taking the ideas to different places. The J job of it is the writing. So if you can avoid that part, it actually keeps the whole thing really fun, which is why I keep doing writing, is because it isn't a ugly slog for me, because this hack really works for me. And then all I'm doing is cleaning and editing my hygiene. So All right. You have completed week 1 of your publishing sprint at AI prototyping, and I will put goodies over there. Oh, do we still have questions? Liz.
I have a quick one.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
you recording every week?
Yes.
Because I miss next week.
Yep. I'm
Okay.
going to record.
Great.
I'm going to behave and I'm going to record. And whenever we jump on, somebody always remind me in case I'm forgetful, because I will be. Kevin, did you have a question still too? Another one? Or is your hand up still? No, it might still be up. Okay. All right, y'all. And then I don't know how to make, I don't know. I need to ask how I let you see the recordings, if I send you a link, or I don't know how these things work, but keep looking in the prototype group because I'll figure it out. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.